So I have been really into watching movies and TV shows way more than I have in previous years. So I thought it'd be fun to go through everything I've watched so far in 2025. I'm going to go through everything chronologically, and at the end I will mention my favorites so far and the things I recommend. So if you just want to, you can skip ahead to that section in the timestamps below. Also, let it be known that I'm very, very bad with names, and also will often forget character names, so a lot of the time I probably will end up just saying the actors' names instead. I've been using the same spreadsheet I use for tracking my books to go through all of the movies and TV shows that we've been watching so far in 2025. And currently I have 25 entries for us to go through that include both movies and TV shows. So with that intro out of the way, let's get right on into it. Starting off, I'm going to go back and talk about the things I watched in January. And pretty much this month was just in watching the first 3 seasons of Better Call Saul. For context, back in the end of 2024, I watched from kind of the end point of season 4 through to the end of season 6, which is the finale of Better Call Saul. And my wife just basically kind of told me what was going on. I used context clues to be able to watch those seasons. Since as she was watching through it the first time, she kind of told me everything that was going on. So I didn't really feel like I was missing out. And I also just kind of wanted to get to what I saw as the best part of Better Call Saul and skipped ahead to season 4. But because I really enjoyed watching those seasons, we decided to go back and start from the beginning again and watched through the first 3 seasons in January. And then in February, we watched most of season 4, kind of leading up to the point where I started the first time around. And eventually we will go back and finish the rest of season 4 and move on to the rest of the series. But that's kind of still in limbo because we have other shows that we're watching more actively right now. After that, we can move on to the stuff I watched in February, which has begun a several month long endeavor of watching a bunch of M. Night Shyamalan movies. The first one we watched was Trap, and then later in the month we also watched The Village. In between those, we also watched the movie Sorry to Bother You by Boots Riley. And like I said before, then we ended off the month by making more progress in watching the 4th season of Better Call Saul. Moving on into March, we watched 2 more M. Night Shyamalan movies, which was Unbreakable and then Split. And the last movie we watched in March was I Saw the TV Glow, directed by Jane Schonenbrunn. Moving into April, we watched a lot of movies with a very, very wide breadth of genre and tone. Going in order, we first watched She's the Man, then we watched Conclave, then we watched Twister, then we watched Ocean's 8, then Nosferatu. Our friend Will came over and we watched Companion with him. And the last movie we watched in April was She's All That. Moving on into May, we have the most recent set of movies and TV shows I've been watching. In terms of movies, we have the last M. Night Shyamalan movie in this list, which was The Sixth Sense. And then in terms of movies, our friend Quinn came over and we decided to watch Hereditary. And as of a couple days ago, we watched Longlegs. And then the most recent movie that we watched literally yesterday was The Adventures of Tintin. And then in terms of TV shows, in May, we watched all of the first season of Severance. And as of right now, I did decide to reactivate my Apple TV Plus subscription so that we could start watching the 2nd season of Severance. And we're only 2 episodes in to the 2nd season. So that's a full look at everything I've watched so far this year. I figured now we can go through and talk about some of my favorites. The first thing, of course, I have to mention is the TV series Better Call Saul. To give a rough summary, it is both a prequel and a sequel series to Breaking Bad. And if you don't know what Breaking Bad is, it's probably one of the most acclaimed TV shows of all time. I think it's in the Wikipedia article for the best TV shows of all time. The general premise of Breaking Bad is that it follows a high school chemistry teacher named Walter White, who after he is diagnosed with terminal cancer, decides that he is going to make and sell meth for the purpose of getting as much money as possible to leave his family so they will be well off after he passes away. During the process of Breaking Bad, there is a character he meets named Saul Goodman, who is a kind of corrupt criminal lawyer who is willing to work with Walter White to help him further along his drug empire. And the main premise of Better Call Saul is that it primarily follows the character of Saul back when he still was going by his birth name of Jimmy McGill as an up-and-coming lawyer, sort of before he develops the more criminal, seedy persona of Saul Goodman. But it also has a couple flash forwards in the present day after the end of Breaking Bad, seeing where the character Saul is at post the end of that series. Breaking Bad, again, is one of the most critically acclaimed TV shows of all time. So going into Better Call Saul, it can feel like it has such huge shoes to fill in order to be as good as its predecessor. but my wife is definitely part of the group that believes that Better Call Saul is actually even better than Breaking Bad. I have not seen enough of Breaking Bad in its entirety to fully judge that, but I really, really love Better Call Saul. All of the characters are so amazing, and every single one of them goes on such a huge arc in their character throughout the entirety of the series. Even though Jimmy's storyline is not fully connected to the more criminal drug empire elements of the story, it doesn't feel like these side characters are less important or that their journey isn't as well fleshed out as Jimmy's is. I also feel like all of the characters, both new and old, really work well together, and all of the actors are so amazing in their roles. I think I mentioned in a previous video that one of my favorite characters is Nacho, who is this kind of almost proto Jesse type of character of someone who's involved in the drug trade and seems like a bad boy but really has a heart of gold, and that he is just very much tortured and pulled in all different directions and forced to do terrible things for the sake of keeping his father safe. I love him so much. I feel so bad for everything that he goes through. Overall, I think the series is so amazing. Another thing that my wife pointed out is that all of the references and elements that are incorporating characters or plot lines from Breaking Bad, they never really feel like they're gratuitous fan service. It all fits together so well and makes sense why those characters are being brought back in. Overall, it's just a really, really amazing series. And this is coming from someone that hasn't watched all of Breaking Bad. I still feel like because I had someone in my life, being my wife, who's watched all of the series and can kind of tell me what's going on and what is connected to Breaking Bad, I'm able to follow the entire plot line. I do think it probably makes more sense to watch them in order, but I think if you're someone that did watch Breaking Bad, but then just never got around to watching Better Call Saul, it's absolutely worth it to go ahead and watch this show. I think I'll mention now at the other TV show that we've been watching and really, really loving, which is Severance. We have only watched the first season, but I feel like everything that people have said about this show to hype it up is absolutely correct. I honestly feel like this show is the reason why you need to get an Apple TV subscription. Very few things will make me pay for a subscription service. I've done it so far for 2 different TV shows, Interview with a Vampire and this. The main plot of Severance is that it follows our main character, Mark Scout, who works for this huge, I think medical tech company called Lumen Industries that has pioneered this type of technology called the severed procedure, which basically makes it so that when Mark enters his workplace, he forgets everything about his outside self and has a entirely new identity just that exists within the confines of his workplace. We learned throughout the first, I think probably 2 episodes, that the reason that Mark did this was because he personally was suffering from a lot of grief from the death of his late wife, and doing the severed procedure and taking this job was a way that he wouldn't have to think about the sadness of being without his wife for 8 hours a day. The main catalyst of the storyline involves a new person coming into the office named Helly, who very, very much does not like the severed procedure. She feels very betrayed that her outside self put her in this position where she's basically a slave to work for 8 hours a day and doesn't have an existence outside of work. And her arrival and kind of eventual friendship with Mark and the rest of his team makes them kind of all develop a class consciousness and greater scrutiny on the company of Lumen. And what exactly is the reason and benefit for the severed procedure? This show is really, really good. I think the best thing about it is the fact that it's so good at balancing comedy with tragedy. There's a lot of really funny elements that play up the absurdity of office life. A lot of things that poke fun at the kind of trivial bonuses that can be given out to companies to kind of appease workers in the meantime versus actually giving them things that would be beneficial for their lives in the long run, all in the sake of them continuing on helping the company make more and more money in the capitalist hellscape that we all live in. I think it's such an original and unique concept for a show. So far, I think it's really, really good. I'm really excited to see where they go for the rest of season 2, and eventually how many seasons they're planning on having of this show. To be honest, I feel like this would be a good kind of mid-length show, maybe only being 3 or 4 seasons. Only 2 seasons are out right now, but it has been renewed for a 3rd season. Okay, now I wanted to move on to some of the movies that we've really been enjoying. The first one I wanted to talk about is I Saw the TV Glow. This is a horror movie that focuses on 2 teens that live in this small town and are both obsessed with this kind of niche Buffy the Vampire-esque TV show called The Pink Opaque. I feel like it's not really a movie that's trying to be scary in the moment. It's much more disturbing and haunting and really sticks with you after watching. I think this is probably the movie that I have thought about the most since watching it back in February. Probably one of the most important elements of this movie is that the entire thing is definitely supposed to be a like trans allegory. Both the actors and the director have talked about this element as it being kind of focused on like the egg crack moment when someone realizes their trans identity, and also like the existential horror of trying to make this incredibly life-altering choice on if you are going to pursue wanting to transition, and what are the effects on instead going with conforming to society and staying in the gender that you were assigned at birth. It's an incredibly like disturbing and hard watch. And this is coming from my perspective. I'm a lesbian, but I am cisgendered. I cannot imagine what this would be like if you are trans and watching this. I do think this movie can be a little bit slow at times, but I think overall it's a really, really good movie. I think it's a very unique concept. I think the like monster designs are really, really fun. And I think the acting is amazing. Justice Smith, his like performance in like one of the last scenes of this movie is so incredibly good. Just like terrifying and also heartbreaking. I really, really can't recommend this movie enough. Another movie that I really enjoyed watching was The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan. Like, I feel like in watching this, I get it. I know why this movie is a classic. First, I think the performances are all amazing. Haley Joel Osment is probably one of the like best child actors I've ever seen. Like, he's both so cute, but also like so tortured in his role of this little boy that's being haunted by these terrifying ghosts. I'm also pretty sure this is one of the first of M. Night Shyamalan's twists, and it's also one of the ones that I feel like makes the most sense. Also, as kind of like an aside, I really like all of M. Night Shyamalan movies because they are pretty much always set in Philadelphia. He is from the like mainline suburbs of Philadelphia area, so a lot of his movies are either filmed there or are specifically supposed to be set in Philadelphia. And just as someone that's from Philadelphia, I really like that. We honestly specifically decided to watch Split because the ending scene is filmed in the Silk City Diner, which is a place that I have gone to on multiple occasions. Okay, I thought I would leave off on talking about another movie that I really, really enjoyed, much to the probably joy of my wife in saying this, which is Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster. This is one of probably the most popular horror movies that's come out in the last couple years. It follows a family after the death of the main character Annie's mother, who had been living with them. Annie had a very strained relationship with her mother, and after another death in their family, pretty much everything goes off the rails with Annie and the rest of the family's mental state. I feel like this movie is so incredibly good, really, really good at like kind of bearing the lead in the direction the movie is going to go. I feel like if you watch the trailer, it is an incredibly different vibe from what the movie actually ends up being like. And in some ways, the trailer makes it look a lot more like predictable and basic, whereas the direction the movie actually goes in is so crazy. There's so many iconic lines and scenes in this movie, and all the performances are really amazing. I also really like this movie is so focused on the relationship of the mother Annie and her son Peter. I feel like their kind of like push and pull dynamic is something that's not really focused a lot, specifically the relationship of like a mother and her son. Also the horror in this movie, when it gets to like the final act, when things are really, really going off the rails, it's crazy. I don't think there's any like jump scares in this movie. Just a couple things that are deeply unsettling and truly haunting images that will stick with you long after you're done watching the movie. So yeah, that's a rough look at some of the movies and TV shows I've been enjoying so far in 2025. I also should mention that pretty much everything that we watched on this list specifically was chosen because we could get DVD copies of it from the library. I think the only thing that we actively like use streaming services for, besides the second season of Severance, has been watching Better Call Saul. But everything else was stuff that we were able to get through our local library as DVDs or Blu-rays. So that was kind of a big factor in choosing what we're going to watch next. And I just find it really fun to be able to go to my library and pick out things instead of having like choice paralysis from trying to pick something out on a streaming service. Definitely a great alternative to instead go to your local library, pick out like 4 or 5 DVDs and lay them out as your selections for your next watch. I also figured it'd be fun to talk about this on my channel, given that my name is Nina's Library, and there's more at a library than just books. And lately, my favorite way of consuming new stories and trying things out has been in watching movies and spending like quality time with my wife in watching those movies, as opposed to just reading books. So I thought this would be a fun thing to try out on my channel. Please let me know in the comments down below if you like this style of video, and I'll definitely consider making another one in the future as I watch more TV shows and movies in the rest of 2025. But with that all said and done, we are now at the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on the Storygraph if you'd like to see my reading updates in real time, as well as my Instagram, which is linked in the description. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!